Hello, today we are talking designer shoe dupes, and you'll know as someone who puts comfort first, this is a huge priority for me. A lot of these, I think actually 95% of these are all leather alternatives, which means that they aren't coming from Shein or AliExpress or the fence, anywhere like that. These are going to be good quality shoes that should last you season after season. I'm going to put a little menu here with timestamps, but I'm planning to run through sandals first, then flats, then boots, and then I'll also talk about heels, and finally I'm going to end with designer dupes for bags as well. So that way you can skip ahead to what you are looking for. But of course, being down under, I am going to start with sandals first because it is in the 30s this week. It is incredibly hot. I'm also going to give you my hot takes, or not really quite so hot takes, but my thoughts on each shoe style as well. So I thought we could have a little bit of fun fashion commentary at the same time. First pair I want to mention is actually a style that has been on my wish list, and it's the Khaite sandals. And my big hesitation with actually buying the designer version of these is that I've bought a few pairs of shoes from Khaite in the past, and the quality is beautiful, exceptional, really lovely designer shoe. However, they do tend to run a little bit more on the narrow side, and I have wide feet, and I just don't really want my feet hanging over the side of the sole if I can avoid it. I have made some exceptions in the past. I found a really good alternative from Elias May. They've basically replicated the style right down to that chunky strap at the heel and then the gold kind of clip detail towards the toe. Incredibly chic. I just think these are a really nice, easygoing sandal that aren't going to fall off your foot. Okay, then we have a bit of a merger between two different shoes, but similar style, similar vibe. So we have Jill Sanders Agnoletto sandals, which I actually have the designer version of, and then we've also got the rose take on it, which I don't know if they did a flat, but they definitely did a heel, which were incredibly chic and just kind of had that same sort of cage design. Now, if you're looking at more affordable alternatives, Tony Bianco actually have a flat version of these, which are very reminiscent. They look exactly the same down to the actual toe shape and the caging. And they also do a heeled version, which I do own. I'll show you a little try on of these in the silver, which have the black heel. These are actually pretty comfortable. I wore them to an event over the weekend and I was pretty happy in them on my feet all day. Though if you want something that is a little bit more inspired and less a direct alternative, then you could go for something like these Air sandals. These are a cage leather sandal with more of a squared off toe, so they feel much more modern, and also they give you a little bit more room across the foot if that's something that you're considering. And also they have a really good block heel, and these are incredibly comfortable too. The caging just sits over your feet, and I would say these are a better option for those who have a wider foot. They also do a flat version as well. Both of them are on sale too, which makes them incredibly affordable for a leather shoe. Then we have the rose fisherman sandals, which are kind of those cage design, a very chunky flat sandal. I've seen loads of iterations of these, not just the row doing them at the high end side of the spectrum, but a lot of more affordable alternatives. And the ones that kind of caught my eye recently are from Air label, and these come in 3 different colors. I especially liked the chocolate brown croc embossed leather. I really actually like this shoe in terms of more of a chunky shoe option, but I do feel like the style itself is very limiting when it comes to styling. You need to have a very specific style in order to have these as part of your regular rotation, or very specific outfits in order to make them feel like they are cohesive. That's just my personal take, and I say this all the time, but you do you. You wear what makes you feel really good. AD do some of my favorite shoes in terms of combining comfort and also that kind of middle premium price point that isn't quite designer, but it's not quite high street. And I went and tried these on. They are a high gloss buckle flat sandal. They've got 2 straps across the foot and 1 at the ankle with these really kind of quite in your face buckles. I did think that these probably weren't quite my style, but it was fun to try them on nonetheless. And I spotted that Elias May have a very, very similar option. They also have that squared off toe. They have the high gloss leather, and this is a great way to bring in that texture to your summer outfits. I think these are really quite fun. For a very classic style, let's talk alternatives for the Hermes Oran sandals. There are so many of these across the internet. I've talked about these dupes before in the past, so I'll link some of those other ones that I mentioned two because I feel like most brands tend to bring them back season after season. But some of the newer ones that I've seen are Tony Bianco have done their own version of these. They are in a leather. They come in 4 colors, which includes a raffia version. And I just think that this is kind of one of those styles that isn't going to date. And I don't think people are going to be looking that closely at your feet that they're wondering, are these the real deal or not? Then the other one that I saw, which is more of an affordable alternative, and I do want to note that these ones are synthetic, so I would personally avoid, just as I find synthetic doesn't give as much as leather, but if your budget is lower, then these could be a good option for you. These ones are from Hermes in here, and they come in 5 different colors, so you've got more of a spectrum. I saw one other alternative, which aren't exactly the Oran sandal, but they really feel quite heavily inspired because they have that same sort of square geometric shape strap across the foot. They're from Edward Miller, and these have a thicker footbed, so they actually remind me of a cross between a Birkenstock and the Oran sandals, and I think that that's kind of a fun play on those 2 different iconic shoe styles. The Row Jelly Flats, I mean, gosh, has there ever been a more divisive shoe? I mean, sure, yes, actually the Tabby Flats, but these shoes, I've seen so much discourse about them over on TikTok. I have actually written an entire Substack about this shoe in particular, at least it kind of was the Substack newsletter, which I will link in the description box. Over $1,000 for a pair of jelly shoes to me is obscene, and I never actually got into jelly shoes as a kid. They were something I wanted, but my mum never bought me, and actually looking back, I mean, it doesn't really bother me now, but I'm definitely not someone who is out there going, I want to wear jelly shoes. And I've seen quite a lot of remarks about the questionable quality of the Rose shoes, which I know that they have had some issues with their shoe manufacturer. They changed factories from my understanding. But if you do like this style, I have seen a few iterations, and I've actually seen some on Amazon as well, which I'll be able to link below, and that should be a lot more accessible for those of you. But the first pair that I saw are from Jeffrey Campbell, and I have to say I don't really like these at all. I much prefer the style of the Mara Flats from the Row if I was going to be buying a pair, which I'm not. But to me, I think that the design of the Rose version, it just feels like there is that additional design step. Whereas the Jeffrey Campbell version, just having the rounded edge over the foot, it feels a little bit like there's something lacking. The best iteration of these shoes that I've seen are from Senso, and they look very much in line with the design of the version from the Row. They come in a few different colors, the red obviously being the most striking, and the final pair that I saw are from Walnut, and these also tend to have that similar kind of look. They're a bit more affordable. I think they're half the price of the Senso ones, but they only come in the clear jelly. This is a shoe trend I won't be jumping on. I think it is something that we'll look back on in a few years' time and go, what were we thinking? What were we collectively thinking? We're wearing plastic shoes. Final pair of sandals, and these ones I have actually tried the designer version. I bought them because I thought they would make the perfect kind of minimal sandals add into my wardrobe, and when they arrived they felt a little bit lackluster. The sole was really thin, and I could tell that it felt like the strap at the heel would probably slip down, or at least the elastic would give over time, and then it would render the shoe unwearable, which is not ideal, especially when you're spending that kind of price point. If you like this design, then I think Laminaires have done a really good alternative. I think if you like that look, then the Laminaires ones are a great alternative, especially if you've got smaller feet. And I will say that a lot of these Korean brands, if you actually just do a bit of a deep dive into the W Concept website, they will have some really good alternatives to designer brands. Unfortunately, most of the time, the biggest size they go to is a 39, so it usually means I don't have a chance, but there are some really great options on there. Let's chat flats and the Adidas and Wells Bonner collab. There's a very specific style of sneaker that falls into this collaboration where the tongue is extended and it sits over the top of the shoe. I've tried these, and I will say that they are not very flattering at all, and it actually looks kind of awkward. So that said, Jeffrey Campbell have done their own version of this, and I think the execution of the Jeffrey Campbell version is done very well. They're in leopard, and then they've got the cocoa brown tongue flap that sits over the top. I think they've done a great job, especially with the gum sole. So if you like that look of that Wells Bonner and Adidas collab, but maybe can't afford the price point or can't get your hands on them, I do think the Jeffrey Campbell ones are a good alternative. But yeah, I think from styling, these would be quite difficult to integrate into outfits. Let's do 2 pairs of shoes from AD, both of which I own. Now, AD do these lovely little Uma Mary Jane flats. Really interesting because I feel like the one of the comments I got about these was, you know, they look so tight, they look so sad. Doesn't that make you feel bad having spent all that money? Absolutely not, because I adore these shoes. They're so comfortable, even as someone with wide feet. I will say the high shine finish at the toe has started to wear off and I desperately need to take them to the cobbler. I keep saying this week. I'm definitely going to do it soon. But Tony Bianco have a really similar version. If you love this look, the Tony Bianco ones are great. There are so many brands doing this type of shoe right now. One of my current favorite shoes are the Delia pumps from AD. So these have a low block heel. They kind of remind me a little bit of the Le Monde Barrel flats in terms of the actual shape of the vamp, but it feels very kind of architectural and interesting. And Jeffrey Campbell have done a pair called the Trusty Pump, and I very nearly bought a pair of them, and I very quickly kind of pulled myself back and said, no, because this is the color you love, these are the shoes that you love, just keep wearing those and actually get your cost per wear out of them rather than trying to spread it across two very similar shoes. But the AD ones are beautiful, and I think if you have the budget and you love the color and you love the original design, I don't think you would be mad with these shoes. But Jeffrey Campbell, very good price, and they're on sale too. The Manolo Blahnik Hangisi heels will forever be iconic, especially for that moment in the Sex and the City movie. And I continue to see brands pulling inspiration from this style. And I've got a couple. One actually I have in my wardrobe. They're these here from Edward Miller. They're in a full block color suede and actually incredibly comfortable. These are something that I got as a work shoe, and I find that they give me that nice elevation and height while also having a slight design element that makes them feel more interesting. And they do a flat version of these as well, which are equally chic. But another brand that I always see doing a riff on this style is Sam Edelman, and theirs are a lot more heavily embellished. They kind of feel more like they've been adorned with jewelry, and I will say that I've been very tempted to order these in the past, and I like that they keep bringing them back every season but in slightly different fabrications. So currently they've got kind of a velvet texture with the gold embellishment, and they also have another one which is kind of like a burnt out velvet in, I think it's in a deep olive color, which are also really interesting. Would be a really fun holiday party shoe. The Chanel two-tone shoes in every single iteration. Gosh, there are so many more affordable alternatives to these out there. And I will say, I've actually tried the Chanel ones and I didn't like the color of the beige, which was really what led me to double down on the fact that I loved my Vanelli ones more, and also the heel height on them was so much better. Actually, let's just talk about the Vanelli ones first. I mention these every single time, but these are quite possibly the best affordable alternative out there. This particular colorway that I have is discontinued. It was a limited edition, but they do the pudding in black, which is kind of the classic beige and black combo. Very nice, and mine really gave up the ghost a long time ago, and eventually I came to the realization that they just needed to go. And I ended up replacing them with a similar style, but that was a bit more high contrast. These ones here from Joe Mercer, so they've got the little buckle detail and they're in leather too, really comfortable. I quite rate Joe Mercer shoes, just as I think that the quality of them always kind of blows me away. And they're one of those brands that I don't feel like I've ever really had to break in. They also do a heeled version of these. They come in black on black as well. But the other brand that has so many of the sort of toe cap detail shoe is Sam Edelman, and they've done a great job of it as well. So first they've got the slingback flat, which has the nice rounded toe and it feels very reminiscent of the Chanel version. I love the tweed in particular, but it comes in a few different colors. I think that those are fabulous and they feel close enough to the real thing that I think you're getting that vibe. The second version they do is kind of more of a buckled sandal version. Is that what you call it? It still has the toe cap detail, but it's got the dorze cutout. And these are really fun. I think my favorite color they come in is the gold, but they also have the black and the neutral. They do have a heeled version, but I think the ones that also I really liked are the quilted ballet flats. I think these are so fun, especially the kind of spiced ginger, or is it spiced cinnamon color that they have. Really beautiful textures as well. A really fun holiday shoe, especially for those of you who are in the Northern Hemisphere. You want something that's flat but that's still going to look cute. One more brand, Atmos, in here. Some of my personal styling clients have had these shoes, in addition to a few girlfriends of mine. They've got them too. They have a heeled version and a flat version of them. Again, another really good option, much more affordable than the real thing. Next, Gucci loafers, the horsebit style. These are iconic. They are a classic design for the brand. One that I have actually purchased for myself, but I will say I just found them a little bit too precious. So I ended up reselling mine. I've seen so many brands bring out this style of design, but the Quince version really caught my eye because they felt like such a near dupe for the original. And they have them in 3 colors. This is a new design on their website and really reasonably priced as well. I do have some shoes from Quince. Some I really love and others I think are just okay. And these to me look like a pair that I would really love, and they do come in a backless version as well. Another brand that does a very similar kind of take on this is Hermes in here. Look like they've captured that nice almond shape beautifully. More loafers, the Tods Gamino driving loafers. These are iconic. They have been such a firm staple for the brand for years and I've only heard good things. I'd actually really love to buy the designer version of these. Quince again have done their own version and they have some really nice neutrals. They feature that same non-slip Gamino rubber outsole, so I think you can get that same look for a lot less if you don't quite have the budget to stretch for the Tods pair or aren't wanting to save up for them. Then we have the Tods Chunky Chain Strap loafers. Now I have actually bought the really thick chunky version of this loafer before, but they do more of a streamlined silhouette, and Edward Meller have done their own take of this. They look very, very similar right down to the toe shape, and they have that really nice chunky strap across the foot. Now I hardly wore my Tods loafers, mostly because they were quite a chunky shoe and I prefer a slimmer silhouette, so the style probably would have been more my jam, but also I just found the leather was a little bit too stiff. So I think if I was to try the style out again, I would definitely go for the more affordable rather than the designer version. And also, I mean, you're wearing them on your feet, so you know, they're all going to get destroyed at some point. Now, I bought these Loaf Lorandle woven flats at the very start of the year, and I absolutely love them. They were kind of my most worn shoe of the season. I reach for them a lot because of how comfortable they are. The actual sole itself is more narrow across the foot, but I mean, you can look at them and you can see just how worn they are. They look really battered and they're showing the signs of wear. And I think that when you buy something, even if it's expensive, you do have to kind of think, am I still going to love this when it looks incredibly worn? And my only bugbear with this is the fact that the woven leather, it's not really designed to accommodate wide feet. So you get these little gaps where you can see my skin through the leather. And I often get people ask me about this in real life. They'll say, oh, there's something on your shoe. And they'll say, no, that's just my foot. But Quince have done their own version, and I actually prefer the Quince ones, I have to say. So I like the fact that they have that more squared off toe element. The actual cut is wider across the foot, so these are more suited for those who do have wide feet. And also the colors. I mean, this Bordeaux color is incredibly chic, a really good option for autumn, winter, but also you can wear any color you like any time of the year you like. The leather on them is really, really nice. So I think if I was to have my time over, I'd just get the Quince ones. Lamont Beryl do these ballet flats, which have a very signature sort of cut in terms of the vamp and also the toe shape. And I think these are really unusual, very kind of fashion forward. And I love when designers have a point of view with their shoes. Air have done a really similar version. It comes in 3 colors. My personal favorite is the chocolate suede, which I think would also be really comfortable too, because suede really gives and molds to the shape of your foot, but definitely kind of 2 peas in the same pod, if you know what I mean. Next are a pair of loafers from the Row, and I can't quite recall the name, but once I put them on screen, you'll probably recognize them. They have this scrunch detail where the leather pieces meet, and I'm going to say it now, this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but I don't really love this design. The execution of it feels incredibly masculine. It also feels a little bit vintage in the way that is more old-fashioned than current, and I suppose it's the matrimony of those 2 things that make this a shoe that I don't love. That said, for those of you who do love this shoe, I have found some really good alternatives. J. Crew being the first one. They have a few different colors, and I'm really sorry because I know they had an incredible sale for Black Friday with 50% off, and that would have been a great time to buy these. But I think the J. Crew ones are a really good, more affordable alternative that you know are going to be good quality because they kind of sit in that upper high street price point. Then another brand that has them more close to home, Elias May. And I saw they did these in kind of more of a glossy patent leather, which I think is a nice way to bring that high shine. And that to me is a really good execution of the stylish shoe because that high shine gloss patent, it feels a little bit more feminine. I kind of feel like it's rooted in sort of tap dance culture, and that is probably the iteration of the shoe that I would consider for that very reason. Okay, Jill Sander do these ballet flats. They have this bracelet effect, and it's really interesting because Hermes released a shoe like this, I think it was back in the 90s. So it's kind of funny how these little design elements end up popping up over the decades. A really incredible shoe. It kind of has that design point of view that I mentioned earlier. I saw that Sam Edelman have kind of replicated this shape but without the bracelet, and I actually think that that's better, and I'll tell you why. Because I bought the Jill Sander ones and I sent them back because the bracelet was uncomfortable around the ankle, and also it cuts you off. As someone who does have a shorter leg for their height, I want to kind of increase the length of my legs visually, and using an ankle strap is just going to stunt my legs. So while I think that you don't have to wear outfits that are flattering, there are sometimes things that maybe you don't want to budge on. They're non-negotiables for you, and that's one of them for me. Also, I'm not against ankle strap shoes, but quite often when I wear them, I either need to pair them with a mini skirt or I want to wear them with something that covers the ankle strap so I still get the effect of the shoe but without visually cutting off my legs. Another version that's a little bit more classic, Jeffrey Campbell, theirs have a slightly less squared off toe. I think that these are a really nice version. They definitely feel like a more watered down option, much more approachable, more commercial. Tibi is a brand I absolutely love, and I feel like they do some of the most incredible shoes, and generally they're very comfortable too. Now, they have a shoe called the Rudy Flat, which is a pointed toe Mary Jane style with a strap across the foot and a sling back. And Edward Miller have done their own version. I have the Edward Miller ones, and I think these are great, especially if you want to get that look, but for a lot less. I mean, Tibi shoes, especially with the exchange rate right now, incredibly expensive to buy if you live down under. So this is a great way to sort of get that look, but at a much more approachable price point. And these are on sale at the moment as well, so an even better deal, and they're actually pretty comfortable. I will say they run small, so yeah, I did size up a full size in these. Going back to the Row, I mean, do they not produce the most controversial shoes ever? They're mesh ballerinas with the high vamp. I mean, you either love them or you hate them. I am not all about mesh shoes in the same way that I'm not about jelly shoes. I did try them, but I think I just kind of came to the conclusion that I would be buying into a trend if I actually added them to my wardrobe. So anyway, just kind of going back to it, if you do love that look, Khaite do a really nice version of the mesh ballerina. Again, kind of going back to those points about how we see more watered down design often in these more affordable alternatives. The vamp is a lot lower. They come in 3 colors, white, black, and red. So things that feel quite approachable to wear for every day. But they do look like they've got a very thin sole. I don't think these are going to give you much support, but you know, if you love the look, the Khaite ones I think are the way to go. The Khaite Nevada boots I think are incredibly chic, but obviously they have that really high price point attached. And I saw that Khaite do a very, very similar version. You know, they have that banana heel. They only come in black, so a good option if you want something that's going to be classic that you can style with everything, but yeah, they're going to give you the same look for less. I personally really like this. I love the banana heel because it feels a little bit more styled, like it's got that really interesting design aesthetic to it while still being reasonably minimal otherwise. The Acne Studios Jensen boots feel like such a throwback at this point. I think I bought them close to a decade ago, and I love that Marc Fisher are still making a dupe for these all these years later. I did want to mention them because I think that they are a nice classic boot. I like these for 2 reasons. One, they have the pointed toe, so it feels really nice and sharp and also elongates the leg. 2, they also replicate that pointed sharp feature in the gusset, which is a triangular shape, more angular. I just think that that feels a little bit more interesting than the classic Chelsea boot design. And I can say from experience, the Marc Fisher boots are incredibly, incredibly comfortable. Actually, more so, they cut wider than the Acne version. Moving on to heels, and then we'll chat bags. So I've got 3 to mention. One, the Totem, the sharp heel. So these are a classic slingback that have got a little strap across the foot. I think these are really cool in that kind of edgy, minimalist 90s sort of way. And I spotted that Tony Bianco have a pair that looks strikingly, remarkably similar. Like, sometimes when I look at the designer shoe dupes, I think, why would you spend the money on the designer version where you can buy the more affordable one, which is still a high quality leather, and then you've got more money in your budget? So I think those are a really great alternative. We also have the Saint Agni Mirror heel, and I wouldn't call these designer, but definitely more of that premium brand, at least here in Australia. So these are a snake print mule with the little low stacked heel. Now Tony Bianco have also done their own version of this. I do feel like the toe is cut wider and it's more of a square front, and also the snake print that they've used is more of a yellow tone, but very, very similar, and I can understand why this is one of their most popular styles, especially down under. This final shoe dupe encapsulates a couple of different styles from Bottega. It sort of blends them together into one, and I'll put the references on screen so that you kind of get where I'm coming from. And I love the little cage design at the heel, the fact that it's got the chain strap, and then you've also got the bauble at the strap, the bauble at the toe. I mean, these sort of feel like a holiday shoe, and they'd be really cute just with a little tight underneath as well if you do live in a more colder climate. All right, so bags, let's kick off with the Khaite Eleanor studded bag. This is really a statement piece, and I think definitely more of an edgier style. I really love this bag, but I know that it's not the bag for me. But I have seen some more affordable options, one being from Tony Bianco. I think their leather quality is really nice, and actually I saw their social media team did that, "Hi British Vogue, I'm Charlie XCX and this is what's in my bag," using that bag, and it's quite spacious. And also Edward Miller have done a very, very similar version to this as well. Edward Miller leather is very beautiful and definitely more luxurious than Tony Bianco, so I think it does have that slightly higher price point, but both very good dupes. Then if you are actually loving that sort of studded vibe and you love the Khaite studded belt, I've seen so many iterations of this, but the best one I have seen is from Madewell. I very nearly added this one to cart. I think it's incredibly chic. However, with statement items like this, I do think you run the risk of feeling like you're wearing a time capsule, you know, something that really embodies a certain period of your life. And this is probably one of the reasons why when I was younger, my mum always told me to just wear block color clothing because it doesn't date. The Ro Margot, I mean, I will say now, I think this is quite possibly one of the most impractical bags, especially in the larger sizes, because you can't wear it over your shoulder. You have to wear it in the crook of your arm or carry it. And a big bag like that, you're probably filling it with a lot of things. That said, if you love the style but don't want to pay over $10,000, because who has that kind of money for a handbag? Definitely not me. I am not in that bracket, not even close. I have seen some really nice alternatives, and dunce for women I actually think do the best. It is incredibly chic. I'm going to put a photo of it on screen, but I saw this and I thought, wow, if I really, really, really wanted that Margot look, I would go for that. I do have another one which I think is nice and takes a little bit more inspiration from, rather than being so heavily inspired. It's this tote here. This one is from Monero. The leather is pretty nice actually. It's got a coating on it which makes it feel really smooth. It's quite durable as well. It just has this little belt closure, and inside it's one large open pocket, and then it's got a small zip up closure. Probably the only thing I will say is because it does go in on the sides, if you overstuff it, then you really push out the sides and it doesn't quite have that same beautiful sleek shape. But this is also a nice alternative. I just think that the dunced version is a little bit more of a close take. I've also seen loads of affordable alternatives over on Etsy as well, so I'll link some of those. If you love a Bottega Mini Jodie, Quince have done their own version of it, which I have here with a little knot. These bags are really, really expensive, the Bottega ones, and I can understand why, because of the actual intricacy and the level of work, the detail, and I think it's a really cute bag. But again, these sorts of designs are, you know, in 5 years time, they're going to feel like the Gucci Dionysus feels now. And you're probably not going to be reaching for it in the same way. This is a really good alternative, and it comes in a few colors. The Miu Miu bowling bag. Now, I have to admit, I don't really quite get the hype around this style of bag. And maybe it's because bowling bags are really fashionable when I was around 11 years old, and I had a pink one, which is probably, you know, one of my more questionable choices when I was younger. But I think these look neat when they do have all of the different tchotchkes and embellishments on them, but I don't know if I would be buying a designer version of this because I think it's going to feel tired very, very soon. And I have seen people say that they feel like Miu Miu is the fast fashion of luxury. But yeah, I have seen some more affordable alternatives, most notably Marge Sherwood. They have a whole range, all in suede as well. I think they do some leather versions, but that bowling bag style that you just kind of carry in your hand, and you could attach the little charms and things, and then you've got exactly the same sort of look and vibe as Miu Miu, but without the logo emblazoned across the front. So that's a more affordable take. Then one last one, which isn't exactly designer, but it is sort of in that more premium bracket. Polene, their number 8 bag. Quince have done such a good affordable alternative. This does not look exactly the same, but it is giving off that same feeling, that same vibe. And I'm actually really, really happy with this. I think the size of it is really nice. I like the fact that the handle is really structured. This is one of the best quality bags that I own from Quince. I've got a few. And yeah, I think if you have been thinking about that bag, you live in America, you can easily access Quince. You can't go wrong with the style, and it comes in 3 really nice colors as well. So that wraps up my latest designer shoe dupes video. I do have a whole playlist of these. I'm going to link that down below in case you'd like to go and have a watch, as I know some of those shoes will still be available now. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Give it a thumbs up if you want to see more of these. And if you are new and you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love to have you back. I share more videos like this. I do brand reviews, how to mix and restyle your wardrobe, and also general styling tips. But thank you so much for spending some of your day with me. I'm always really, really grateful, and I hope that you have the most beautiful week ahead, especially as we get closer and closer to the holidays. See you soon. Bye.